Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Consecrated podcast. Bro, you tell me to intro this, you tell me to start it, and then I start it, and you roast me for how I started.
I didn't say anything. I literally said
Even
nothing.
your mic caught you chuckling at me.
Man, that was just a little bit cringy. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, you want to restart it and you do it?
No, we won't restart nothing. Let's go.
Fedhii, here's the thing. Fedhii loves to keep it as authentic as possible, which, I mean, me too. I appreciate that, but we're keeping this intro, I guess. You do it then. You do the intro.
That was good. That was good. I feel welcomed to the Consecrated podcast episode.
All right, you're doing the next intro.
All right, episode.
I don't know.
I think it's 14.
We're in so deep, bro.
No, we're not. We're really not.
We're in so deep that I don't even know.
Yeah, that's not that deep though.
Yeah, I'm joking. Yeah, from here on out, guys, Fedhii's doing all the intros.
All right.
Every single one. And you're talking the whole time, and you're doing the outros.
All right, I'm gonna start doing goofy intros until you take it back.
Goofy?
Yeah.
You're saying my intro today was goofy?
I mean, yeah, that's not what I was saying, but it was goofy.
Dang. I just inadvertently gave you the alley-oop to roast
Hello,
myself.
everybody.
I told you to do the intro. You wouldn't do the intro.
All right, let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day out. You know, we're matching.
Yeah, we are.
Wearing blue. Didn't even talk
Blue, black.
about that.
Even our hair's matching right now.
I know.
This is crazy.
I copied you.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. For people who are not watching on,
Something.
why
YouTube.
did I forget the name of YouTube? I literally I froze.
You froze.
And I never
You
freeze.
You do be freezing.
I do be freezing. I got braids for the people who are watching on YouTube who can't see. That's why he said our hair is matching. But
That's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you. We're back, everybody.
Yes.
We are back, and we are recording another episode. What a good day.
It is.
What are we gonna talk about today, Fed?
Today, we are going to explore how Jesus makes it easy for us to meet him.
Yeah.
And to how he has created this space for us to connect with him, and how believing that he has made it easy for us to meet him actually paves the way
Yeah.
for us to meet him.
Yeah.
Because the way that you think has a big impact on your experience, isn't it?
Right.
And honestly, this is something that even the world knows. This isn't just we have all discovered at this point that you will live what you think.
Right. All the self-help books are like,
Yeah.
what you believe, the top 3 things of what you believe about yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, all of this comes back to spiritual realities, which people may not fully know how to talk about, but they can talk about the effect of these realities. And they can say, it seems like if I think something, it has an impact on the way that I experience the world. These are all founded in certain spiritual truths that people maybe not, they don't have the language to describe, but they've observed that these things are true. So it is true. The way that you believe, the way that you think will affect your experience.
Yeah.
And what we want to believe and what we want to think is according to the truth. So what is the truth of the setting which Jesus created for us to be with him? Is it difficult to meet with God on the earth? Or has he made it easy?
Yeah.
When we were preparing for this episode, as I was seeking Jesus on what was on his heart, he was demonstrating to me, I saw a picture of somebody who was really, really struggling. They had the desire in their heart to connect with God, but they were struggling in the actual act of connecting with him. They would maybe even set aside time and space to meet with him. I saw them enter into a quiet space, just like the word talks about, to pray. But there were these straps almost, it looked like, holding them down. And these straps, in a way, actually had an origin in their minds. They did not originate in anything but their system of beliefs that they walked into that room with.
Yeah.
And that impacted their way of what their time with Jesus looked like.
Yeah.
And the question that I heard Jesus pose was, it was something to the effect of this. It was not verbatim this, but it was something to the effect of, how would you act if you knew that I made it easy for us to meet? And another way that
Or believed. How would you act if you believed?
If you actually believed
Yeah.
that I have made it easy for us to connect.
Yeah.
Another way that I was wording it in my kind of times processing what he was asking was, how would you act if you knew the wind was in your sails when you approached God to meet him?
Yeah.
That instead of the setting around me is actually restraining me and it makes it difficult, it's hard to connect with God. Instead of believing that, what would happen and how would you act if you believed that Jesus had already prepared the table? Imagine if you had come to his house, he actually had already prepared the table for you to sit and to commune with him. That kind of mindset, I believe, has a very dramatic impact on the effectiveness and the fruitfulness of our time with Jesus. Whether or not you believe that he actually did prepare a place for you to go and meet with him. And so, isn't as we were, preparing for this, we were kind of talking about different stories, some through the Bible and others through personal experience, of how we have witnessed expectation, or the way that you think as you move into a time potentially with God, because it's always potentially.
Right.
Now we're kind of talking about the things which result in that potentially becoming certainly.
Right.
Because you can move it from potentially meeting God to I will certainly meet God. And there are certain things that, and we're not saying that this is the one way. If you get this down, you will always. It is a big component.
Right.
And there may be other things that we can explore at a later date. But, from our personal experience, watching, different moves of God on the earth, and then also things that we've seen in the scriptures, observing how people can have vastly differing experiences with the same God. And that God has the same heart towards all of his people.
Right.
He's no respecter of persons.
Right.
But one person can have a very drastically different experience to another.
Why?
Based off of, do they believe, is the way that they think in alignment with reality? Do they actually believe that Jesus has set the table for a connection, an encounter with them?
Yeah.
Or are they coming believing this probably isn't going to happen, this may not work, this is difficult, and I can't connect with God?
Yeah. We kind of touched on this a little bit in one of the episodes where we talked about hearing God. That one of the foundational principles, one of the first things that you have to believe first before you hear the Lord or before you meet with him, is even just having the belief that you can meet with him.
Exactly.
Even having the expectation that he will meet with you.
Exactly.
And how that in itself is pivotal to everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost as though you want to drill that in before you even try.
Yeah.
Because you could be pretty frustrated,
Yeah.
And your lack of encounter, your lack of experience in God may come to reinforce certain lies that you have believed about it being difficult to meet God.
Yeah.
Unless you hit this very foundational truth that indeed he does want to be with you and meet you. And, that must be the basis, the ground floor setting that you enter into. Otherwise, you might have a difficult time, isn't it? Yeah.
Because it's true. If that's not settled in you, and you try to find other circumstances to prove the Lord does speak to me, and you don't feel him speaking to you, or you don't hear him speaking to you, then it'll just reinforce the lie
Yeah.
that the Lord doesn't speak to you.
Yes.
Because you haven't settled that within your heart of
Yes.
the Lord loves me and wants to speak to me, or the Lord loves me and wants to commune with me. Instead, everything else is going to be evidence and
Yes.
proof
Yes.
of the lie that you're already believing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think sometimes even for people, there may be some sort of dissonance, or at least there should be,
Yeah.
when they look at the reality that Jesus sacrificed his life, obviously signaling a great deal of, intent to be with us and establish a relationship with us. And then in personal experience, they're not sensing that same level of passion. They're, what that could and should cause dissonance. There's something that's not sorted
adding
out
up.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jesus loves us. He wants to be with us. You need to establish that at the ground floor.
Yeah.
He has actually created the setting for us to meet with him. And any day, any time, any place, he's available.
Yeah.
He's looking for constant fellowship. And that is available to you at all times.
I just want to quickly say, if there's anybody listening and when Fedhii said that, you felt an immediate no, that's not true. I think that's a sign
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
That there's something in you that doesn't believe that.
Yeah.
There's some element of the
Yeah.
nature of Jesus or him loving you or
Yeah.
if there was, I'm just trying to take a quick pause
Yeah,
and
good.
say that was a great check.
Good. Yeah.
If, as Fedhii was saying
good.
that, if there was a part of you that was like,
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a pretty clear telltale sign that there's a unhealthy belief there.
If you just heard those words and something squirmed a little bit in you
and you're
or resisted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there was any resistance at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's probably more to go into, more depth to dive into with that, which is not a bad thing. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Prioritize addressing that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want that to be something that is solidified in you.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe anything else from this is step number one. You
Right.
have to start there.
Yeah.
He loves you. He gave his life for you. He wants to be with you.
Yeah.
If every fiber of your being does not believe that, change whatever you need to change to get to the point where you believe that.
Yeah.
Meditate on all that he's done for you. Look at the sacrifice. Connecting with God is and will be easy for you. You just have to come to the point where you believe those things.
Yeah. Clear out whatever clutter you need.
Do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Clear the space.
Because until then, all of your circumstances are going to reinforce whatever belief you're holding on to, whatever
Yes.
unhealthy belief you're holding on to.
Yes.
Until you clear out the clutter.
And like we're saying, it will be a self-reinforcing cycle.
Yeah.
You're going to cause your experiences to continue down the path that they had already been down.
Right.
You may continue to feel a lack of connection and depth in a relationship with God.
Yeah.
You might then lead to disappointment and belief, reinforcing a belief that he doesn't want to be with you.
Yeah.
But everything that he has said and done indicates otherwise. So something's not adding up. It's probably on your side.
Yeah. It's for sure on our side.
It's for sure on our side. Yeah. So let's look at some examples.
Yeah.
Should we?
Yeah. About
Should we
how
start?
expectation and how you show up
Yes.
changes things.
Changes your experience.
Yeah.
Should we start Bible or should we start personal experience? What do you think?
Give me a personal one.
Personal. Okay.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with a dear friend not long ago about a certain place where God has touched dramatically. Mm-hmm. There are certain times, and it's sad that it happens in bursts, but when you look through church history, there are times where God seems to really break in a powerful way.
Yeah.
People meet him, are saved, delivered, and start to step into a more, at least full version of what Jesus had in mind. And this friend had experienced one of those God outbreaks. Another word for them is revival. And I was asking him about his experience over the years. And he was talking to me about how his experience has changed over the years. And it was, it's not the same today as it was before. As we've talked about, sometimes, as I said just a moment ago, it can kind of move in waves sometimes. And that's a whole separate conversation, but about why that happens. But as we were talking about the current state of things and what things are like, what the current state of things are like in this place now, I asked him about the experience of the this community, and whether they're still experiencing and encountering God to the degree that they were previously.
When there was this like burst.
When it came in strong force and people were being transformed. And he said, it's not exactly the same. Ooh, excuse me. And then I asked him, there's a local community, and then there's also a community that, not a local community, there's a local community and people who visit from out of town, having heard of what God is doing in this place. And I asked him, is the experience of the local community, the experience of what God is doing, their encounters with God, the depth in God that they're walking in, is the experience of the local community the same as the experience of the visitors? And his answer to me was no. It does not seem to be the same. It seems like visitors get touched, receive a touch from God that is a little bit more akin to the kinds of encounters that people were having originally. They're, a little bit more transformational. You're experiencing the power of God in a more intense way. And the testimonies, the miracles that come out of these, visits seem to be a bit more like, I don't know what the word is. It's not dramatic, but it's
Miraculous?
more miraculous. Yeah, it seems. And rhymes a little bit more with how things were before. And we took some time to talk about that. Why would two separate individuals, call them Bill and Bob? I don't know where those names came from. Bill and Bob, and why are they so similar? I don't know. We're gonna get these confused.
They could be brothers, bro.
They could be brothers.
Yeah.
Why would their experiences be different? Let's say Bob is, stays in the area.
He's the regular. Yeah.
And let's say Bill
flies
from a different place. He's a visitor. He comes on the same weekend that Bob attends, and one has a crazy encounter with God. Bill does.
The one that came.
To Bob, it's just a normal Sunday. Bill maybe has cancer healed in his body, or maybe has a family member. Maybe he took off work and he comes. Why are you smiling? You're holding back a smile. Are you laughing at my names?
No, yeah. Just keep going. I love doing this podcast with you, but also it's funny because you're my brother and I want to roast you, but I'm like, okay, serious time,
Yeah, you can roast me. It's cool.
No, just keep going. This is good.
Why do they have two varying experiences? We're sitting and we're talking about that, me and my friend.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I was thinking, well, the visitor, they probably took off work.
Yeah.
Took PTO.
Yeah.
They probably, pulled their kids out of school for however long they needed to be out of school. They bought a plane ticket for however many hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And booked a place to stay for another couple hundred, or whatever it is.
Right.
And sacrificed both time and money upon having heard that God is doing something in this certain location. And so they think, well, why not me? Why can't my condition, let's say they're showing up for a miracle. They want a touch from God to heal something in their body, which maybe doctors have told them we can't do anything about. Yeah. And they hear God is doing something in a certain such and such location. And they think, well, why wouldn't he do something for me?
Right.
So they get on the plane and they go, and they get touched by the same God that the local person came to worship. Yet the local person does not seem to have an experience which would shape the trajectory of their life.
Yeah.
Why? Is it a difference in the God that they're serving? No, they're serving the same God.
Yeah.
Does God love the visitor more than the local? It can't be. It says that he is no respecter of persons.
Yeah.
So then we began to explore, well, I wonder if it has to do with the expectation of the visitor. Having arrived, believing a certain thing,
Right.
serving the same God, but knowing that this God could do something which could drastically change my experience.
Yeah.
So showing up with that faith, their experience follows their expectation. And then those words start to trigger, oh, wait, there's very similar experiences in the Bible that people have, right?
Yeah.
Where Jesus often says words such as, according to your faith,
Yeah.
let it be done for you.
Yeah.
And we've talked a little bit about faith in the past, in the role that plays.
Right. The big role.
The big role.
Big role.
So that is one personal anecdote. It seems to me, I would say, that the visitor experienced God because they believed in their heart that Jesus already had set the table for the two of them to meet. And you might even say they may not have even had to have gone to this location.
Yeah.
But they did.
Yeah.
And they did so because they believed that God could touch them there.
Right.
And so he did that. He touched them according to what they believed.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's one story. There's a second one I really like, and this one's from the scriptures. This is the story of in Luke chapter 7 of the centurion servant. Is there something more actually you want to say on the personal
No,
anecdote?
keep going.
Okay.
You're rolling. Keep going.
All right, then we rolling. Luke chapter 7, starting in verse 1. I'm just going to read this through verse 10. It says, after he had finished saying these things in the hearing of the people, he being Jesus, he had just instructed people regarding judging people and the tree and its fruit and building your house on a rock. And then after, sharing these things, he enters Capernaum. And then a centurion who had a servant who was sick and at the point of death, who was very valued, this servant was there in Capernaum. And when the centurion had heard about Jesus, he sent to him elders of the Jews, asking him to come and heal his servant. When he had, and then when they came to Jesus, these elders of the Jews, they pleaded with Jesus earnestly, saying, he, the servant, is worthy to have you do this for him, meaning heal him, for he loves our nation. And he is the one who actually built us our synagogue. So they're making this case, please come and heal him. He's a good guy. So Jesus went with them. And when he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends, saying to him, Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. Therefore, I did not presume to come to you. But say the word, and let my servant be healed. For I too am a man who is set under authority, with soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes. And I say to another, come, and he comes. And when I say to my servant, do this, he does it. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled, and he said, turning to the crowd that followed him, I tell you, not even in Israel have I found such faith. And then it just says, and then those who had been sent returned to the house, and they found the servant well.
Crazy.
Okay, there is so much in this passage, and
Yeah.
I love this one so much. But let's hone in on the expectation of the centurion his friends, and the way that they interact with Jesus, and how that results in the healing of the servant whom they loved.
Yeah.
This centurion, upon having heard that Jesus was around and having heard the word of Jesus's miracles in other places, decides there may be something that this Jesus can do for my servant.
Yeah.
Okay, that is step one.
Right.
That could have gone one of two ways. He could have just said,
Jesus is here. Cool.
okay, whatever.
Yeah. Didn't care
My
about
centurion, the servant is sick. He's sick.
Right.
This man's in town. Apparently he does miracles, whatever.
Yeah.
Keep going. I don't think that there's anything that can be done for this person. That is a totally possible outcome. That could have 100% happened, and the servant whom they love could have died.
Yeah.
That is like a timeline that they could have gone down.
Right.
Just as possible as the timeline that they actually went down.
Right.
But he crossed that mark. And he said, good. This person's here. I think that they can help. Let's go get him.
No, he knew he could help.
He knew he could help.
He said, you don't even have to come. You just have to say the word. In your personal example,
Yeah.
you gave an example of the person going, was it Bill? Bill going to the location to get the miracle that he wanted.
Right.
This centurion knew, I don't even need to go there.
Yeah.
Just say the word.
Yeah.
And I'll be good.
Yeah.
Like that in itself represents a certain level
Of certainty.
Yes. He
Well, and
has a deep level of certainty that he knows who Jesus is.
Yes.
First of all, being a centurion. There's so many things we could go into right there.
I know.
Being a centurion and believing that.
Roman centurion, yeah.
Yeah. But he in himself had such a deep belief that Jesus could do it that he didn't even need to be in the room to do it.
Right.
To heal his servant.
He believed Jesus has what my servant needs.
Yeah. And he acted accordingly.
Yes.
And then when he acted accordingly, the whole scene changed.
Yeah. Servant gets healed.
Yeah.
And Jesus gets to take an example of this to all the people who are following. And he says to them, do you see what this guy just did?
Yeah.
The outcome of this story drastically changed because he actually believed me.
Yeah.
Now, up until this point, Jesus had not yet died. Right? He was still in his 3 years of ministry on the earth.
Right.
He was preaching and teaching many things and performing many miracles. He looked for faith on account of the words that he spoke.
Right.
And the way that God bore witness to him.
Right.
But he even said, okay, if you won't believe on account of the words, at least believe on account of the miracles. So he performs a great number of miracles, and the people who it was their state of mind was coming to be changed.
Yeah.
They were walking on one path, and they started to hear a word of a king who could heal blind eyes. And they allowed the hearing of these stories to change their perception of who this individual was.
Right.
And then came to put their faith in him. And then their experience followed suit.
Yeah.
Why would one person have an experience that a second person would not? It was the same Jesus walking on the earth, maybe passing on his way to the home of the Roman centurion, passing along other homes where maybe there were people who were sick. And could have experienced the same degree of healing that this servant experienced.
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't. I think there's one point where he says, if you knew the gift of God who was speaking to you. Was it the woman at the well that he said that?
You would ask me if you knew.
The gift of God who was speaking to you, instead of
You would ask me for a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First comes the knowledge. If you knew, these ones they heard and they came to know.
Yeah.
So if you knew that it was the Son of God who was walking on the earth, you would see a sick servant and know that his healer is here. And they would be made whole. If your heart is not hardened.
Right.
and you're willing to accept that this man is who he says he is, he makes an example now in this moment, turns around and says, I've been in Israel a while, and not even in Israel have I found faith like this. Watch what happens.
Yeah.
I love how it doesn't even say anything about him saying, be healed, blah, blah. He didn't say a word. He literally just turns around to the crowd, addresses the crowd, says, I haven't even seen among y'all faith like this.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything else. They go home, servant's healed.
Yeah. You know what's also so crazy is the centurion isn't even there.
Centurion's
I
not
know we
there.
already talked about this, but
Yeah.
I mean in the sense of he just spent all this time teaching these people.
Right.
Right? He just spent all this time talking to these people
Wow.
about him, about the kingdom, about
Yeah.
XYZ. He's spending time being like, this is me. Listen, this is me. The
Right.
centurion's not even there to hear
Right.
the words that he's speaking.
Right.
Yet he's already believed within himself
Yeah.
and knows and decided that he is the Messiah.
Yes.
And his life is like he acts accordingly.
Yeah.
To what he believes.
Yeah.
He doesn't even need to be around to hear the extra
Yeah.
words.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? I don't know if this is even going to go anywhere, but I find this so funny that this centurion, at first, he pleads with the elders of the Jews, and his ask was, ask him to come and heal my servant. That was his first question. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of picturing him sitting at home and just thinking about what he just did. You know, his friends are sitting around him.
Yeah.
And he's like, so I just
As a Roman.
I just gathered the elders of the Jews. And I said, hey, your guy is in here. Your guy's in town. Can you please ask him, like plead with him, try to convince him to come and heal? And there's probably this moment of like revelation that dawns on him where he, up until now, I'm assuming we don't know for sure, but he's probably not experienced anyone being miraculously healed, right? So he's already stepping outside the bounds of the natural. He's already into the category, the territory of the supernatural. Mm-hmm. And so as he's sitting there and thinking about it, he's thinking, there's this holy man who I've invited to come to my house. And I don't know what exactly he's going to do, but he's going to heal my servant. But couldn't he just heal him from where he's at? So he takes it a step further.
Yeah.
I don't actually need this, and I'm not even worthy to have such an individual in my home.
Right.
And probably what happened is, I imagine, and I'm filling in the blanks here.
Yeah,
but
the
just
speculation.
just
use our imagination. We'll use it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just imagining that this man, having stepped out in faith in the Son of God, now has, in a sense, the backing of heaven. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now there's a grace released for him to even take a second step further into the realm of faith. Because he took one step, which was to say, this holy man is in town. He might be able to help. Mm-hmm. But then he takes a second step, which was unprecedented according to the words of Jesus. Now, I like to imagine that in between step 1 and step 2, this Roman centurion, having inclined his heart to God by putting his faith in the Son of Man, receives heaven's assistance and has this revelation dawn upon him, which says, I maybe don't actually need this person to come at all. Because if this holy man, upon having arrived here, can heal my servant, why would he not be able to heal him from where he's at? And then I imagine God causing this connection to be tied between his own experience as a Roman centurion and the authority what Jesus operates in. And it makes all sorts of sense to him.
Yeah.
He's like, of course it would. Of course the spiritual realm would work in a similar way. Why would it be different? I can understand that if there's a man who has authority to cast out demons and to raise the dead and to heal the sick, in the same way that he issues commands and everything else follows, it's the same thing that I do. Do I have to be somewhere in order for the command that I have made to be accomplished? No, I don't have to. God pushes him. The setting had already been set for him to have faith. And he decided to have faith that Jesus set the table and that all you have to do is come. He decided to believe. He took step 1 And then God blew on him and he arrived at step 2. An unprecedented realm of faith as a Roman centurion, saying that you, the Son of God, are able to heal this man without even being here. Just say the word and he'll be healed. He tapped into a realm of faith by God's assistance because he decided to believe according to what he had heard.
Yeah. Those who have ears will hear.
Yeah. So he knew the gift of God. He decided to believe that this is the case. He took one step. God pushed him into the second step. And Jesus performed a miracle before the sight of everyone and used him as an example that I don't even have to be there. Just believe in my name and you'll be made well.
Yeah. If we're making this practical for a second,
Yeah.
the first step is probably the harder step, though, if you think about it.
Probably, yeah.
Because even the centurion, like he had his decision was a countercultural decision. Romans weren't coming up to Jesus like that if they weren't, trying to fight with him or they're trying to have a problem with him or something. But his first step to have faith was against the culture around him, was against what people typically thought, the way they typically treated Jesus. There's no record of any other Roman, right, coming up to him. I could be wrong, but there's no other record of any other Roman coming up to him and having the level of faith that he did.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is, step 1 for us and for centurion, I imagine is difficult. For me, it was difficult.
Yeah.
You just have to choose. You choose it. You choose to have faith. You choose to believe. You choose to hear what you have heard of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
You choose to hold on to your past experiences of what you've heard of this Jesus and what he's done in your life.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to, you can't just like apathetically be countercultural. Like this centurion was countercultural.
Yeah.
He couldn't just be like, okay, I'm going to believe. But it was an intentional step towards belief, right? Like it was an intentional decision that he had to make.
Yes.
That was countercultural and that was hard. And that was probably a hard first step.
Yes.
And then after he took the hard first step is when the step 2 came.
Yeah.
And the wind of God was in his sails and blew him even further into this realm of faith and belief.
Yes.
So even if I'm thinking today practically for us, because I'm thinking about that person in the room, right? Who has the straps on them, who's trying to connect with God and, they're wrestling with the belief that the Lord doesn't want to connect with them. And they feel like they're just like hitting the walls and stuff. Just like the centurion, I believe that the first step tends to be the hardest. Because you kind of have to push past, even now, I know in Christian world, it's not as countercultural, but in the world, what we're trying to do is countercultural. Trying to hear what we've talked about, trying to hear from this spiritual being and just sit and try to wait for something is countercultural,
Yeah.
It's our original design and is what we're supposed to do. I know there's so many other things, but follow this example for a second.
Sure.
Just as it was countercultural for the centurion to have faith and take that step and believe, and then the world around him was changed.
Yeah.
It, in some ways, is countercultural for us to step against these negative beliefs that are coming towards us of God doesn't love you, God doesn't want to speak to you, God doesn't want to be with you.
Yeah.
You're choosing to turn around from the voice of the world of what it's spewing at you, of what it's saying, of you can't connect with the Lord, he doesn't want to be with you, and you're choosing to be countercultural and step towards the Lord. And when you take that first step of faith and say, no, I believe that this Lord who loves me, who died for me, just to be with me, wants to speak to me, meet with me, you're taking that first countercultural step, and then the wind of God will come behind you and be the wind in your sails and give you that second step.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I like that.
Took a long way.
I think that you're right that first step can be difficult, but unless you get that first step right, steps 2, 3, 4, they're all going to be tough.
Yeah.
They're going to be difficult. And, there was we don't know how much the centurion knew of Jesus. Like I was saying, he had not died yet at this point.
Yeah.
He's asking people to believe in him according to what he's told them. He's like, hey, can you believe me for a second?
Yeah.
And then he does acts. First it was words, and then it was acts. Okay, now at least believe me according to these actions. This ultimate action which was displaying to us what he's trying to tell us, which is he wants to be with us, was that he died. Now we have record of this.
Yeah.
The thing that the Roman centurion did was he took God according to his word.
Yeah.
You're talking about counterculture. That's one level of difficulty, that in the world we do not experience God's love in that way, nor give ourselves to his love in that way. There's also the personal barriers that we come up against, as maybe some of our own personal experiences have told us that it's hard to connect with God. What we can do is as the Roman centurion did, which is just to say, Jesus is saying something. I'm going to take him at his word. And all he knew coming there was that somehow this guy's a holy man and somehow he's going to heal my servant. I don't know the details. He probably didn't know what Jesus looked like. You know, it's just, I think that you have something, and I'm willing to put stock in what you're saying and what you have spoken to me up until now.
Right.
All the other stuff, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But just for a moment, I'm going to choose to believe that what you've said to me and what you've demonstrated thus far is real and it's true. That is step one. I know that's number 3. I don't know if you heard, my stomach's been growling.
The mics are so hot too. That for sure picked that up.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah.
He's hungry.
Yeah. But you know, the reason I say all this is to say, though it is potentially a difficult step to take in light of it being countercultural, to your point, in light of it being maybe difficult considering maybe some experiences that we have had personally.
Yeah.
It could be a different step. It's different, and in it's being different, it's difficult. But also at the same time, it is not complicated. It's pretty straightforward. It's just saying, you said that you wanted to be with me, and then you gave your life to be with me. You have set the scene. You've set the table for us to meet and for us to be together. It's never hard for us to connect. According to you, and according to the price that you have paid for us to be together, you are always available. See, that's not complicated. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
You said that you're always available and that if I seek you, I'll find you. And not only did you say that, but you paid a very high price to make yourself always available to me.
Yeah.
I will take you at your word, those 2 things. I will take you at your word. And should that impact the way that I enter into my time of prayer, my time in communion with Jesus, I would expect for that to have a pretty remarkable impact on the level of connection that you experience with Jesus during that time. Sometimes hopping from the way that we've been thinking to the way he's inviting us to think, genuinely just, it feels like a hop. It's like, I may not have all, like, you know, we like to like have a bunch of reasons sometimes when we make decisions.
Yeah.
You know, we'll make our pros and cons and we'll reason our way to something.
Yeah.
You can by reason also arrive there having read about all that he has said and done.
Yeah.
So if you want to get there by reason, you might be able to do that.
Right.
But sometimes there's also a level of, you know, there's this language of a leap of faith.
Yeah.
You know, there's sometimes you just have to jump from where you have been to where you want to go, according to what he has spoken.
Yeah.
And you will find that just as the Roman centurion between step 1 and step 2, is you start to just, I'm going to just, leap over to this side.
You love making that noise.
There's a blow that happens and it's in your sails. The wind is in your sails. And then you jump from step 1 into step 2. Step 1 just being, okay, I think that this is what you're saying and I'm willing to believe it. You find yourself propelled into, okay, this is true. And this will be my experience because you have said that it's true.
Yeah.
And I won't let the lie that it's hard to meet with you, or that you have not set the scene and set the table for me to, all I have to do is just come. The lie that has not happened to keep me from you. If you have kind of forcibly removed these things out of your way, I think that you will find that connecting with God is easier than the devil has caused you to believe up until now.
I found that true in my own personal experience, honestly.
Yeah.
That sometimes, at first, I kind of had to force myself to believe it.
Yeah.
I had to force it, and it felt kind of awkward, and I was just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to do it because I heard this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just have to take the leap of faith, and then the faith follows.
Yeah.
You leap, and the faith follows.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it.
It is.
Look at the centurion.
And this is
his
true.
favorite servant got
His
healed.
favorite servant, yeah. He can go build another synagogue if he wants to.
Yeah, sure. He really could. Maybe he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the leap is always worth it. It's worth it if you look at what you're gaining instead.
Yeah.
You're losing the straps
Yep.
that are holding you down and keeping you locked in this room of, I can't experience God and he doesn't want to speak to me. You're losing that.
Yeah.
And risking stepping into a life that's filled with the vibrancy of God, his voice, his friendship, his...
Because even just make it super simple. If you're over here telling yourself, I don't love you and I don't want to talk to you and be with you, you're locking yourself in this trap of there's no possible connection that would be happening between me and you.
Yeah.
I could tell you I love you, I want to talk to you, let's talk, let's hang out, and it would not mean a thing to you.
Yeah.
Then in your heart, you're saying, Fedhii doesn't love me. He doesn't want to talk to me.
Right.
Is that true though?
No.
Because for me, I've been saying something else, but you've been choosing to believe something that I have not said.
Yeah.
Actually, it's opposite to what I said.
Yeah.
Now your belief has shaped your experience.
Right.
And you know it. Oh, Fedhii doesn't love me. It's hard to connect with Fedhii. When actually, we've been sitting here talking, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And it's even easier. The level of connection that you can find with Jesus is even easier than you and I sitting here talking to each other just like this. But it will happen to you according to your faith.
Yeah. Faith's important, man.
Yeah.
Faith's really important.
And it's important to him that we get this right. Because he paid a high price for us to actually have this connection. But we're sitting over here thinking I can't meet you. It's tough. It's difficult.
Yeah. If we were to go back to the question that Jesus asked you that you mentioned at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
And we tied it into the centurion. Like if we were to be sitting in the room with a centurion today, say he's still alive.
And the servant's still sick.
And the servant's still sick.
Yeah.
And we said, how would you react if you knew that the healer of your servant is a couple streets down?
Yeah.
The same way that Jesus asked you. What was the question? Say it. I don't want to butcher it.
How would you act if you knew that I had set the table for us to meet?
It seems simple when you phrase it like that. The centurion's like, oh, I'd send elders and run out the door.
Yeah.
I'd book it.
I'm getting my
Someone
servant
who's
healed.
hungry would say, oh, I'm running to the table and I'm eating.
Yeah.
Phrased like that.
Yeah.
You're like, what wouldn't I do?
Yeah. If you can pour gas on this truth, this belief, he set the table, and you reinforce this, you nail this home in you. If you need to write it on your mirror and see it every day. God died to love me because he loves me and he wants to be with me. If you are able to nail that in, the fuel that will be added to this fire of connection with him, you're opening now your heart to actually receive from him.
Right.
You've been closed because you've been believing a lie.
Yeah.
And that has shaped your experience. What he paid for was face-to-face communion with you. Oneness. He paid for a level of unity that you do not even have the knowledge of. You don't even know that this level of intimacy is available with another being. That's what he paid for. But you're experiencing a shadow of a shadow of a shadow of that.
Because of what you believe.
Because of what you believe.
Yeah. Help us, Lord.
Help us, God.
Help us good. Pray for us, Fed.
Yeah?
That was really good, yeah.
All right, let's do it.
What a guy, the centurion.
Amen.
What a guy.
What an example.
What an example. And how cool that it was a Roman. You know?
How cool that it was a Roman.
Like, I feel like it wouldn't hit as hard if it was another Jewish person.
Yeah, because you might say, oh, well, you know, they've got all of that history in God.
Right.
To base that off of.
Right. Or they have all of these promises that God had lined up for them.
Right.
Or all of the... Fill in the blank.
Right.
They had so many things that could have anchored the faith.
Yeah.
Of, this is why I'm going to believe that God can heal my servant.
Yeah.
He didn't have any of that.
Right.
He just chose. He
Yeah.
chose to believe. And
Yeah.
it changed the experience of everyone. His servant...
Yeah.
His servant was probably real happy he had faith.
Facts.
Like, real happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a guy.
Yeah, give us this kind of faith. Okay, I'm going to pray. Jesus, you have already made yourself clear that what you want is to be one with us. And I ask that you would remove from us, your people, the lie that it's actually difficult to connect with you and to commune with you. I ask that instead you would replace those lies with the truth that we are deeply loved by you, and that all you really want is to connect anyways. I ask that you would cause that belief to take firm root in us, and as a result would shape and fuel our times with you, so that instead of coming weary and heavy laden and in a place of disbelief around whether or not it's actually possible to meet with you, we would come full of faith, knowing that you have set the table, everything, the scene is right, the setting is right, and you're there and available and ready to meet with us at any point, and that actually constant fellowship is what's our portion and what's available to us. Cause us to step into this which you have paid for. And I ask that for everyone listening, we would be able to say together that day after day, week after week, month after month, we have experienced the light of your love shining on us as we have come in faith that you really do love us. And that you have longed to be with us, and that we have experienced that longing, and now we long to be with you. Help us, give us faith like the centurion had.
Yes.
Let us be like the visitor who comes full of faith and is touched every time. Father, we pray this for the sake and in the name of your servant, your son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Be like Bill.
Be like Bill.
Wait, as you were
Hashtag
praying...
Be like Bill.
What did he say?
No, you don't want to hear that.
Hashtag be like Bill. I heard that anyway. I can hear your cringiness from a mile away. Bro. Sorry, we're still live. That's crazy. As you were praying, I was thinking, I was reading Hebrews 11 the other day. Hebrews 11 in the first part of chapter 12. And for anyone listening who needs an encouragement of their faith, I would just encourage you to eat Hebrews 11.
It's fire.
Eat it up.
Yeah.
It gives so many examples of peoples whose lives changed simply because they had faith in the Lord.
Yeah.
And they had faith in his word. And even there's a verse somewhere where it talks about that they didn't even see, some of them didn't even see the fulfillment of their promise.
Yeah.
Or see the fulfillment of what they hoped to. Abraham died before he saw the fulfillment.
But he saw it because of his faith. He knew it was happening, and that level of knowledge cleared the way for an entire nation.
A whole nation.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy that just a simple decision can make such a big impact?
Yeah.
But that's why the devil attacks it so much. I mean, that's why doubt is such a strong thing,
Yeah.
because he has recognized something that I think humans don't recognize as strongly,
Yeah.
is how pivotal
Yeah.
faith is.
Yeah. It is the seed of an entirely new existence.
Yeah.
A nation was born from a man's faith.
From faith alone.
Think about the story of Israel. All of that came from because one person believed God.
Yeah. So the new question that I'm taking from Jesus,
Yeah.
that I'm posing to the audience, that we should leave them with this, is how would your life look different starting today if you believed that the same Son of Man
Yeah.
that we've been talking about can not only commune with you, but is with you and is the wind in your sails? How would your life look different?
Yeah. Come on.
And with that, we release you.
Be released.
Be released.
Go change
May
the
God
world.
go before you to guide you.
Be blessed.
Be blessed. Okay, we'll see you on the next
All right, y'all.
one.
Peace.
Bye.